So yes, there was good godly men around in Abraham's time that go completely unmentioned and unnoticed in the Bible. I mean, there's millions of people living in that time, but Abraham is the one that's hand-picked, hand-chosen to do something great for God, and God guides him. God talks to him. God leads him. And then we see the same thing with Moses. And we see the same thing with David. And we see the same thing with all the characters of the Bible in the Old Testament that lead us to this point. And then we have the greatest clump of disciples ever recorded in the 12 that were handpicked by Jesus himself. And then they go on to have different structures. Then we have Paul and we have other people. Yes, there are people who are hand chosen by God's design to do something in a bigger spiritual plane than the rest of us. And there's very few of them. And God tells you to be careful about who you listen to. Test their words with fire. Make sure that they are the words in which I speak. I being God, not me. I'm just a nobody. This is what God tells you to do, though, is to test those words with fire. Make sure they're pure of heart. Make sure that they line up with what He is saying. Which brings us back to the foreshadowing. The foreshadowing that we're talking about is the greatest foreshadowing, not only in storytelling, but in the Bible itself. Because if we look back, we see what Jesus goes through. We see the pain and the suffering that happens. And He says, this is what's going to happen to me. I'm going to die. I'm going to come back again. Well, later on in the book of Revelation, we find out there's another character this is going to happen to. There's someone else that is going to die and be reborn. The Antichrist. Now, what's interesting about this is that it's going to happen the same way. I mean, maybe not, a crucifixion and put into a tomb and all that, but he's going to suffer a mortal wound, a fatal wound, and 3 days later come back to life. An interesting side note here that leads us back to our little pin of the two biggest things that happened during that time. One, that Judas is going to betray him. Alright, so when this thing happens in the Antichrist, that he's going to be resurrected and reborn, well, what's going to happen? Well, some of us who say that we are strong-hearted followers of God are going to abandon our ship. We're going to walk away. We'll be like, this guy must be Jesus. We're going to be so enthralled with what happened that we're going to forget that there is an ulterior motive here, and this has to happen. And so people will go pondering off and say, oh, this is the Christ. He's reborn. He's come back to us. There are going to be those who do that. And an outright betrayal of what you believe. Second thing is that denial. Peter denied Jesus. And remember, Peter is the most loved, or considered to be the most loved, most beloved of the disciples. And he denies Jesus in that moment of, suffering and pain. Because what? He was afraid. He was afraid of what would happen to him if he said, yes, I'm with Jesus. Well, what's going to happen to the people? Some of us are going to deny that we know Jesus Christ when that time comes, whether it's for a selfish motive, whether it's to protect your family, whether it's whatever the reason is. Some of us are going to do that. Not everyone, not all of us, but some. Well, what does Jesus say about that? Jesus says that the greatest gift that you could be given is to die in His name, as He died in ours. But also, He says that if you deny me in public, I will deny you in front of the Father. So I guess this is a word of warning to make sure that you know where you stand. And that think about that really hard. If that time comes, we all want to believe we'll do the right thing. No one wants to believe themselves to be the villain. We all want to believe we're going to do the right thing. The question is, will you do the right thing? You know, in my honest opinion, it would be hard for me to not think about my kids at that moment and think, you know, I could, potentially take the mark and save them. But remember that the saving that you're giving them is temporary. The family that you're saving is only briefly. Remember, the trials and tribulations are going to happen for 7 years. That's it. You're buying them an extra, 6 to 7 years and costing yourself an eternity of happiness with God and potentially costing them an eternal happiness with God. So you have to look at the scheme of things. You have to see the big picture, that temporary fix may not be what you want it to be. So, where are your stance? What is your stance in life? What is your loyalties? Do you question that sometimes? I know that I do. I know that times I feel like I've done something so terrible that God couldn't love me, let alone anybody else. There are people in my life that I love more than I could ever tell them. And I worry that I've disappointed them, or I worry that I'm not the person they need me to be. And I worry that God is disappointed in me. I worry that God can't use me for something. And if only one person watches this video, if only one person sees this 2-part little thing and is touched by it, then I guess I did something right. But if you're that one person and you don't know what it's like to really be loved by God, and you don't really know what it's like to have that hand on your shoulder and that eternal peace and knowing that God is with you. Let me tell you, the next video I do, I will tell you about the things that I've gone through and how God has touched me. That I promise that will be the next one I do. My walk has not been easy, and a lot of times it's my own fault. And we all have that time. We all have those moments in our life where we say, you know what, I screwed up. But that one reoccurring theme through the entire Bible is grace. God loves you so much that He doesn't care about those mistakes. Even if it's something that He considers an abomination. Let me tell you something. I know that He says that, a man being with a man is an abomination unto God, but so is murder, so is a lot of different things. And in God's eyes, they're all bad. There's not a hierarchy of sin. Sin is just sin. So let me tell you that no matter what you've gone through, no matter what you've done, no matter who you are, it can change. God loves you more than you will ever know. And He wants to be with you. And if you don't know that, if you don't know Him on a personal level, this is very simple. There's no one around but just me and you, whoever you are watching this. It takes 30 seconds, if that. And all it is a simple little prayer, words that you have to feel in your heart. Dear God, I am a sinner and incomplete. Make mistakes every single day, but I believe in you. I feel you in my heart, and I know you're real, and I want you to save me from eternal destruction. I want to be able to sit with you, talk with you, and know you on a greater level. Please come into my life and change me to meet your needs, Lord. Through your Son, Jesus Christ, I pray these things unto you. Amen. It's that easy. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this first video. I will do another one depending on the Lord's leading and responses. Please be honest. I appreciate honesty. As some of you know, I like the brutal honesty because I'm kind of brutal. and honest. So until next time, this is Steve signing off. I don't know how to even let go of all this. Until next time, I love you guys. Be safe. Be good.